warm welcome to Daily Dispatch, a show that gives you all the latest news and updates from the digital ecosystem. I'm Priya Sheth. Thank you very much for logging in. Time now to get you all the top news stories that we've been tracking for you this evening. Well, first up, space tech startup Agnikul Cosmos has raised as much as $11 million in its Series A funding round led by Mayfield India. Its existing investors, including Pi Ventures, Special Invest, as well as Artha Ventures, also participated in this round. The funding will mainly be deployed for expanding its team and scaling up its technology and infrastructure. Moving on to the second headline of the day, Amazon US will be sending critical medical equipment worth $5 million to support hospitals and other COVID care facilities all across India. The medical equipment will be distributed to Amazon's on-ground community partners such as the American India Foundation, ACT Grants, as well as Swasth, who will then in turn distribute it to verified hospitals as well as non-profit organizations all across India. Well, reports suggest that online grocery startup Big Basket has clocked gross sales of 8,000 crore rupees in the financial year 21. Now, based on the current sales trajectory, Big Basket expects to clock gross sales of around 12,000 crore rupees in the ongoing financial year, as the average order size has also increased. Moving on to the final headline of the day, New Delhi-based fashion house High Street Essentials, which is the parent company of women's exclusive brands Fab Ali as well as India, has raised 25.5 crore rupees. The company will be using the fresh capital to expand its footprint both domestically as well as internationally. Well, moving on to our second segment, I have with me a very power-packed panel from the logistics space, and the topic of discussion today is decoding the challenges faced by the logistics space amid the COVID-19 wave. And just to give you an introduction of all the panelists out here, we have with us Mr. Subramanian from DHL Express. I have with me Sanjay Rao from Delhivery, Pushkar Singh from Let's Transport, and Rakesh Munaroru from Whistle Drive. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I want to begin by asking you, Mr. Rao, you've had a lot of challenges over the last year, but Delhivery has still managed to bring shipments to people on time. What has been your experience over the last year or so? If you could give us some insight into how Delhivery has been functioning as far as last mile delivery is concerned.
Well, in Delhivery, last year was we never thought that we as a team were united. But when the lockdown was announced, the way everybody rallied around and made sure that the services were restored, that kind of brought us all together, and we could actually see the power behind that. So that was one thing. Coming to this current lockdown, I think we have grown. I think there's a lot to learn. We had a lot to learn from the last one. And this time, I think even the government regulatory authorities and all who are enforcing the lockdown, they've been quite kind enough to understand the importance of logistics to be restored and shouldn't be hampered. So that has played an important role, and it's been better than what we had experienced last year.
Right, Mr. Subramanian, I want to understand how important do you think is it to be agile in the situation, considering that every other day we're seeing lockdowns be getting implemented in different regions for a logistics player. How do you really plan your day or your week ahead in these unprecedented times?
No, see, in the last 12 to 14 months, frankly, if you ask me, the lockdowns are becoming a way of life. Yeah, the one big difference between last year, March, April, May, one, we were unsure of what we are getting into. And point number two, everything was shut down. The volumes were significantly down, and therefore you had to go into full shutdown and then restart, and therefore you were over a period of time trying to match demand with your resources and readiness and network, etc. This time it's completely different, right? The different lockdowns are happening while the businesses and volumes are nearly in full flow. Yeah, it may not be 100%, it may be 90%, 95%, but quite a large number of entities are still functioning, and we are running around to make things neat. And the big challenge also is that you are working with the same challenges, right? You have your team members affected by COVID, and you are maintaining the social distancing norms and protocols, and you possibly are working with half the resources, but you are trying to deliver the full volume. And therefore, I think it's a crazy situation. In a sense, it can be a you can say it's a sweet headache to have, but it's a massive headache because you are continuously focusing on keeping your people safe, and therefore upgrading your controls every day, while you are trying to also take care of your customers so that their supply chains are running uninterrupted. So I think this time around the challenges are significant. The other big difference between the previous year and now is what Sanjay said, which is that the governments are conscious of the fact that they have to keep the wheels of the economy running, and therefore earlier it used to be only essential commodities and logistics was not allowed to function, and there are significant stoppages on the road. But now the facilitation is excellent. Yeah, our machinery is running well. The limited resources we are able to deploy, and with care, we are able to run it steadily, and we are able to take care of our customers with. I think the most important item for any logistics service provider is to set an expectation and be able to deliver on it. Yeah, there is some amount of predictability which is needed. We're still in the realm of predictability during this lockdown, and therefore it's still a much better position to be in than where we were 12 months back.
I want to come to both you, Pushkar, and Rakesh. Being on the tech front, how difficult is it to manage this kind of logistics, and specifically when you have essentials, non-essentials, so many different companies that you're dealing with? Pushkar, begin by telling us what has your experience been over the last couple of months.
Absolutely. Thank you, Priya. First of all, I'm a fan of delivery. So Sanjay sir, thank you so much. And I'm pretty close to the delivery team. I have a lot of respect for what they've built. But I think as Subramaniam sir rightly said, I think they're in a much better position than what we were 12 months ago. From a multiple angles, right? The first one, right from the client to our end consumers to every stakeholder in the equation was a little perturbed as to what is to be done. And each one of us were trying to understand how do we go about solving a situation like this. So there was a lot of learning which went probably 12 months ago, which we're actually capitalizing as we move forward in this pandemic and then this lockdown 2.0, right? So I think as a tech player, what we essentially do, we aggregate individual mini trucks that you see plying on the roads within a city. And we help enterprise accounts such as Nestle, Amazons of the world to do their last mile delivery. So that's the business that we are in. And as you rightly pointed out, non-essentials has taken a hit. I mean, I think it was far more adverse 12 months ago than what it is right now. But you definitely see demand evaporating from the non-essentials category. Think paints, think industries which probably people can push out for the right reasons. But you see a lot more deliveries happening on the essentials front. So as Subramaniam sir rightly mentioned, overall demand would still be pretty much there, or rather they would have increased because of home deliveries. As we fondly say that people prefer goods moving to them rather than them moving towards the goods as such, right? So what we did see, because of technology, we were able to accelerate our scale a lot more than what probably a people-driven organization would have been able to. One thing which we clearly stood out from us and the traditional transporters were there was a problem of reverse migration where laborers were going back to their hometowns to tier 3-4 cities, right? And which is why there was a shortage of drivers, and hence a larger set of local transporters weren't able to render those services. But what we on the contrary saw was a lot of truckers were downloading our applications. These were all individual driver owners, where they were discovering through word of mouth to get business from enterprise accounts, download this app, and you can start finding demand. So it was a little intriguing for us as to why traditional drivers were probably going back to home, but individual small vendor owners of an individual truck were probably looking for more demand. What we did realize was moratoriums which was given for trucks and the other stakeholders was extended through a formal credit channel. But people, a lot of these truckers have actually taken money from the informal money lenders, where you would not see moratorium coming up. So unlike a lot of other stakeholders where we would have seen a crunch in supply chain, we actually had a lot of excess supply built for us. And I think that onboarding that digital adoption by these individual illiterate truckers, I think that's helping us today, where we are able to scale up with the demand that we're seeing today coming into our platform. So I think technology has definitely helped us, and the acceleration of digital adoption both has definitely helped company like us. I'm sure even for our Rakesh, a similar use case would be true.
Rakesh, urban logistics, something that you're looking at expanding to in terms of your fleet, larger presence What has been your experience?
Right. So thanks, Priya, for having me here. Hi, everyone. So I'm Rakesh. I'm from a company called Whistle Drive, and I think Whistle Drive is a relatively new player for all of you. I'm probably sure that few of you have heard about Whistle Drive for the first time in the logistics space, simply because we've stepped into logistics only post the first lockdown. So earlier, when we were in an employee transportation space where we were transporting people, we were in the corporate mobility space, and we had stepped into logistics only after the lockdown. So my experience has been that there's a couple of things that I've observed, Priya. One is that the technology adoption in the logistics space is at very nascent stage compared to people mobility in the kind of experience that we have before. And the second thing is that even in logistics, the supply is very fragmented, right? And there's also a very disorganized way of how things function because there's a lot of focus on the local transporters compared to a pan-India player who can supply at multiple cities or multiple states. So those are the two things that we have observed. And what we have seen is that, I mean, large part of our volumes come from e-commerce, e-grocery and stuff like that, because those were the most easy accounts for us to get into because startups were encouraging startups post lockdown. And we haven't seen any dip in the volumes. In fact, e-commerce volumes have gone up due to the second wave. But the largest impact compared to the first wave is that second wave had a lot of impact on people, right? So in the first lockdown, post the lockdown, people were, kind of okay about going out, spending time on the ground operations, talking to clients, meeting ground transporters and a lot of things. But second wave has really scared people a lot. And we have seen a lot of manpower challenges on the ground. That is one thing. Because of that, the scaling has become really difficult for us in terms of, extending the supply to meet the demand. But what has really worked for us is because we are a technology player. We started off as a technology play in the logistics space, because of which the supply was easier for us to get to compared to the local transporters. And also one of the advantages that Whistle Drive provides is that we do a lot of integration with our clients. So earlier clients who did last mile had no clue about giving ETA or specific location tracking capabilities for the customer to track their deliveries. Now they have all sorts of tracking capability that we have built into our platform that clients are using for integration. And because the e-grocery and meat delivery volumes have gone high, we've seen that the last mile also increased drastically.
Right. I want to come to you, Sanjay Rao. I want to talk to you about what Delhivery has been doing over the last couple of weeks. There have been several initiatives. You'll have been chartering flights for medical equipment supplies into the country. Wanted to understand from your perspective, what have been the challenges out there? Because this is a huge responsibility, flying down oxygen concentrators, medical equipment into the country. You'll have also looked at large-scale investment when it comes to expansion of capabilities. So just run us through what the situation is on ground at this moment.
Well, on the international logistics part of it, I think there's a bit of a challenge there. And it's not as smooth as one can envisage right now. But once when it lands here, I think from there on, we've been able to make the movements pretty smoothly, because the custom clearance onwards till the final delivery to the customers or the hospitals or the government institutions, that has been made possible quite well. I think a large portion of that capability comes from the fact that the government also recognizes that these are important items and they can't be stalled for whatever reasons. And we've been primarily been focused on bringing equipments from Israel and China. So that's what we've been doing. And we work very closely with ACT, that's the group with which we work on this. So on the whole, I think it's been pretty enlightening for us as well, because not only to the general public and the government institutions and the hospitals, but also within the organization also we've been able to take care of our people. And in addition to that, even the vaccines we've been trying to provide to our employees, and we are organizing that. So a lot of initiatives are being taken on these fronts.
Before I go to Mr. Subramanian, I want to ask you, what is the scale of operations that Delhivery is operating at this moment, in terms of what is the number of trucks, number of flights, number of deliveries that are happening on a daily basis, and how much of a growth is it over last year?
Well, the volume have dipped slightly. I wouldn't say that there's been a drastic cut in the volume. Yeah. Though we are still dealing with, if you look at the India, the way the lockdown has been implemented this time, there are some states that have been, lockdown is very severe and very strict ones. And there are quite a few of them which are moderate, and very few of them are quite liberal kind of a thing. Yeah. So by and large, the moderate ones are the ones that are driving the volume, right? So as a result, the volume dip is very, I would say that there is a dip. It is not a very significant one for us to get worried about.
Right. Mr. Subramaniam, I want to ask you, in terms of custom clearances, there have been procedures that have been simplified from the government's front as well when it comes to international shipments. For DHL, that's been doing a lot of international, a lot of domestic shipments on daily basis. What has your experience been with regards to specific essential equipment, medical equipment that has been transported around the country? Also, in terms of vaccinations, I want to understand for the transportation of vaccines, what has been the experience out there?
Okay, so let's start with what's happening in the last few weeks, maybe starting early April, second week of April onwards. I think there is huge movement of or demand for moving oxygen concentrators, empty oxygen cylinders, ventilators, PP kits, then components which go into testing, and some medicines, etc. This has just shot up. And all of these demand is coming from various aid organizations. I think Sanjay made a comment about ACT, which works with Give India, and host of organizations across, and lots of individuals, and of course importers who are wanting to bring these equipment and fill a demand which is there in the market today. But if you ask me, one aspect which is really amazing is the speed with which corporates in India, the agencies in India, even within DHL, the DHL network, the speed with which they've responded to the need for addressing the crisis in India is fantastic. So you said, what is the quantum? I see last 15, 20 days, there's 6,000, 7,000 consignments of differing sizes. It can be a single piece to a 150 piece to a 200 piece of equipment coming into the country, 300, 350 tons have come. So this quantum is very, very high. The silver lining, and in normal course, we would have by now been completely choked, and there would have been we would have gone into an embargo with our networks. Please stop bringing goods because there is no place to handle it. The silver lining has been the way with which the customs and CBIC has responded. One, they've sort of simplified quite a few regulations so that it is smooth sailing. But more importantly, I think they're extremely proactive. We are having a list of shipments coming with COVID related material in it, and that's getting sort of pre-cleared or cleared in advance so that it just hardly doesn't stop. Somebody brings it with messy paperwork, nobody can help him. But if it's a clean shipment, it won't wait at all. The challenge for us is that there are 50, 60 boxes in queue to be brought in for processing, and every box has few COVID-related material. How do you fish it out? And therefore, some of your processes have gone completely bonkers because you are addressing the COVID-related shipment. But I think so far we've been able to manage that well given the constraints. So I think amazing amount of work is happening. Series of NGOs and governments, and there is a Give India mission, there's Mission Bengal, there is something called Project Smile Trust. Then I think anybody and everybody in the network across the world who's able to raise funds is raising funds and doing something for India, and somewhere we are standing in the way. So I'm very proud of that. You spoke about vaccines. Yeah, vaccine. If you ask me, there are two ways in which I want to answer this question. One is that being a manufacturing base in the country, vaccines already had a well laid out supply chain, all these vaccine manufacturers. So that's flowing, and anything which is beyond that, then it will go to somebody else who need to support. DHL is in the vaccine distribution supply chain, the key player in almost 60, 70 countries globally, and across Europe, in the US, and in many parts of Asia also. The DHL network is delivering vaccines, be it Sputnik or is it the Pfizer vaccines or the Moderna vaccines. DHL is involved in that. It's early days for international supply chains to reach the country, right? Sputnik trial shipment has just come, DHL brought it. But we need to see how the manufacturing happens once there is an exportable surplus available and multiple vaccines are getting produced. I think next 3, 4, 5 months, this space needs to be watched. Depending on how fast the manufacturing gets geared up, how ready India becomes ready to take care of its own domestic demand while developing a surplus for distribution to countries overseas. I think the network needed for logistics and fulfillment will develop. So this is a space to be watched. We'll have a role play, and we are very confident that we'll do it very well.
Right, some interesting insights coming in there. Pushkar, I want to come to you to ask you about what the volume differential is between the essentials and the non-essentials on your platform, and how are you looking at making up for the volumes that you've seen in the non-essential space?
Absolutely. So Priya, I think 12 months ago, it was a little close to 55-45 distribution, where 45 was essentials, 55 was non-essentials, at least for our platform. And there was a sudden decline in the demand from non-essentials front. I think what our team as well as the entire ecosystem did very well for, we saw very strong pull by clients on digital supply chain movement, which meant two things. Companies like DMart, companies like other retailers wanted to now move into home deliveries and other e-commerce channels, wherein we actively got those clients and helped them set up their e-distribution channel. The second was, which I was mentioning before, where your existing set of clientele started upselling with you, largely because their other smaller transporters started failing at their end. So today that number is a little over 75 essentials, 25 non-essentials. And that 75 would have grown by about 10 to 20%, while the 25% would have definitely gone down by about 30-40%. So that's the mix that we are there in today. But as Subramaniam sir rightly said, as Sanjay Rao sir rightly said, I think a lot of our demand is also coming from oxygen concentrators, medical equipment, and it gives us immense pride to kind of be participants to help. It's our privilege to help a lot of these organizations with their distribution. We actually are now monitoring our transit times between even the smallest of 10, 20, 30, 40 kilometer transactions, where we are helping remote districts with their oxygen concentrator requirements. Delivery and we did a joint movement towards Jaisalmer for a few of their oxygen concentrators. So I think that as a channel was non-existent in LT's context, in Let's Transport's context. But today we definitely see a rise of supply chain in the entire medical devices / medical essential domain for sure.
Right, Rakesh. On the medical equipment and the essentials front, what has been your experience? You've just pivoted into this model of logistics. So far, what has been the volume like, and are you specializing in these medical equipment related transportation at this point in time?
Right. So Priya, so in the first wave, we haven't had a chance to work on this particular thing, but because of the second wave, now we're working with Mangalore and Vizag ports and transporting oxygen concentrators and cylinders to various cities in the south. And from there, we're also transporting to private hospitals and semi-urban areas as well. And the other thing we're also doing is we have partnered with SCSC from Telangana government in Telangana, where we are also working with them and transporting COVID supplies wherever necessary. And we're also partnered with a lot of foundations in Hyderabad, because we are headquartered in Hyderabad and we are doing all that supply work. I think what my experience has been that there's no clear supply demand mapping that's happening. Everything is going based on what's expected. But I think what could really help is government steps in and try to do the demand supply mapping of the oxygen cylinders and concentrators, because it can save a lot of lives. So on that front, we're working with a lot of companies as well. And, like Pushkar rightly mentioned, what has happened is that local transporters have lost a lot of volume because they have no control over the supply as well. So because of that, we have been able to ramp up our supply and work with a lot of companies to provide the fleet and the times that's necessary. And also much of our volumes come from the essential goods. So we had almost negligible impact in all the 12 cities that we operate in at this point.
Right. I'm going to come to closing comments. I want to begin with both Sanjay Rao and Mr. Subramanian. In terms of the outlook going forward, and I want to begin with you, Mr. Rao, in terms of expansion and investment, 300 crore rupees is something that Delhivery announced as part of the kind of investment that you're going to pump into the business. So from the Delhivery point of view, I want to understand what kind of outlook do you see in the logistics space in the next 2 to 3 months in the short term? Do you think that expanding capacity at this point in time is the answer to meet the kind of requirements that could perhaps surface over the next few months?
See, on the capacity front, it's a constant challenge now with you can call even human beings as one of the part of the capacity creation because manpower is needed and the vehicles are also required. So I'm focusing more on the manpower side. So that capacity build is a challenge even today because that's something that's always seems to be in short supply, especially around this time when there's so much of infection all around. So once when things settle down, I think the way Delhi and Bombay, they have kind of plateaued. I think over time, other cities also will reach that stage. And once it does, I'm sure the capacity requirement will be there and demand will grow even further. And by then, most of them, I'm assuming, would all be fine to join the workforce once again. And I'm sure we'll have adequate capacity by that time. I'm quite hopeful of that. I'm quite optimistic on that front. So I'm not one of those doomsayers who would say that things are just down the spiral. It's all going down the wind. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm quite hopeful of the future. Yeah.
Mr. Subramaniam, in terms of fleet, in terms of overall capacity, what kind of expansion plans have you envisaged for DHL in India, specifically over the next 2 to 3 months, considering that we're still going to be facing challenges from the pandemic, at least in the short term?
See, I'll tell you, if you have to put a number to it, if we take our globally, if we take our 2019 volumes, projected the 2019 growth, the volume we are handling currently, possibly we would have hit in 2023. Okay, so that's the fast tracking of volumes through the network which has happened. How are we managing the volumes? We're managing it with better capacity utilization, smarter network, running. So that goes without saying. But in terms of our capacity, I don't think there is one point in time when the capacity expansion stopped. I think we're on even in the last 12 to 15 months in India, we've added people, we've added vehicles, we've added flights into the country. We now fly 20 flights into the country every week. And we've expanded our facilities. At least 3 of our facilities have been expanded in the last 12 months or so. And we now have possibly the largest airside facility, which has just gone live in end of March in Bangalore. So therefore, capacity expansion is if you ask me, it's never stopped. So there is nothing specifically for COVID-related volume surge, which we will expand. And ideally, if you ask me, for such volume surges, you should not expand capacity. You should flex your capacity. You should use what is available. And then that's the smart thing. Otherwise, when it comes down, where will you go scampering? Because DHL also is an asset-intensive operation. We employ largely 90+% of our shipments are delivered and picked up by our own people. We have our own fleet. And the planes, 50-60% of the volume flies out of the country on our own planes. And therefore, that's a model which is possibly extremely good to operate at this kind of time because we have the best flex available and therefore we're able to provide the stability which is needed. Having said that, if you ask me, looking into future, there are few things for me striking if I look at the last 10-15 months. One of my colleagues made a comment last week and that stuck in my head, which is that the logistics boys used to be stuck in the basement. In the last year and a half, they've come to the boardroom. Because every situation which has played out since Jan-Feb last year, be it the disruption to supply chains, or be it the need for vaccine distribution, or be it now the need for some of the essential items like oxygen or oxygen concentrator to be distributed. It's only underlying the fact that you need smart, professional supply chain specialists handling, whether it is critical or non-critical. There has to be a method to the madness. You cannot manage it for cost and feel that you are resilient when trouble hits you or when demand hits you. So therefore, I think logistics role has been significantly under, and that's a big win for everybody around this table who are on this call. And going forward, it will create so much wealth for businesses because they are now focusing in the right direction. I think into the next 5, 6, 7 months, we will come out of the current madness in terms of the scramble for essentials. Slowly, I hope that this focus shifts to vaccination. That is what will give us lasting gains. The focus should shift, and we should be in a position to shift to lasting gains. That's what we pray for. And vaccination drive will bring us back to some stability. And we see things to be far better towards the end of the year into next year than what we see now. So I'm very, very positive. I'm very positive about what can happen. But in the short run, there are the challenges of capacity, the challenge of manpower, and the biggest of it for me, I mentioned it earlier also, it is taking care of our people. Yeah, ensuring that people are safe and ensuring that they don't get into trouble is almost 100% equal to business continuity.
Absolutely. I want to come to you for the final comments, Pushkar and Rakesh. In terms of tech improvements, being a tech platform, what are the top two things that you would perhaps do in terms of innovating, in terms of bringing to front more interesting and better technology options for the logistics industry? I want to begin with you, Pushkar, if you can highlight what would be the two top priorities for you this year.
Absolutely. So Priya, from our learnings across the geographies, right, be it China and places others, what we're now seeing is if you look at the way digital adoption or digital penetration flows in, you have a few people who are people users of Facebook, WhatsApp, they're conversant with technology. But as Subramaniam sir rightly mentioned, we're now seeing an influx of people who are now looking at digital options, which probably primarily they weren't looking 2 years, 3 years ago. So as a tech company, what we're now focusing on is getting a right product market fit, even for those newer set of people who are getting exposed to digital technologies for the first time, right? I mean, for us, it's fairly easy to use an Instagram because we've been adopted that way. But imagine a person who was using a Nokia 1100, and all of a sudden you give him a smartphone, you give him a mobile application, you give him an internet. It's a whole different conversation that we're having. So till date, it was more about people, enthusiastic, lower set of communities who were looking for their own entertainment, but now it's become a method of livelihood. Now what we are talking about geofence, we're talking about other advanced technology, routing optimizations. How does this entire sector of people actually respond to that? And as a company, can we create a product which has a right market fit with them? I think that's been a very significant focus. And while Delhivery and DHL have been investing in increasing their capacities, I think as they rightly mentioned, we'll also be investing in building this technology and product forward. So a lot of our efforts are now going on to looking at tier 2 consumers, tier 2 driver owners, how do they behave, what products can we offer them. We've expanded to personal lending through our network partners because we have that data with them. And I think it's the entire set of ancillary benefits that's being given to our platform, where we've constantly sat with our users and understood what are their pain points and coming up with product and partnerships which would benefit them in this pandemic. So essentially just two things that we are focusing on: getting more users, which are people who were not conversant with technology, and making products relevant to them, and striking partnerships, curating products for people which otherwise was inaccessible to them in form of access to capital, insurances, moratorium from EMIs, so on and so forth. So it becomes a one-stop shop for any truck driver or any logistics gig worker to kind of get in and find work, find ancillary benefits on the platform.
Right, Rakesh, 2 points from your side.
Right. So Priya, what we're focusing on right now is that the industry is slowly shifting from a hardware-based, location tracking or the overall shipment tracking to a mobile-based, mobile phone or smartphone-powered location tracking. So since we have got terrific experience in people mobility in that space in terms of technology usage as well, we are focusing a lot on how do we transform a lot of players who are still working on it, hardware GPS, to a mobile-based application where there can be a lot more engagement with the app and also a lot more data points can be collected. That's one. What we've seen is that the regional language support that we have added to our driver application, where someone who is from Tamil Nadu can look at his instructions in Tamil, and someone who wants to understand in Hindi can understand in Hindi. So we have seen that has increased the engagement for the drivers. That's the biggest thing that we have seen. We did not feel the need to do that in cabs earlier because I think the level of education between a cab driver and a truck driver is very different. So that is one thing that we have seen. And the second thing is that there's a lot of collaborations happening, Priya. So for example, companies are coming together and seeing how can collaborations happen. And what we are working on is the integration of systems. Let's say I'm working with Myntra, right? So if I integrate my system into Myntra's application, or we have seamless data flow, what will happen is that the overall experience for the ones who are running the operations as well, and also the customer as well, would improve a lot. So that is the second most important thing that we are working on. Yeah, so these are the two things that we're focusing at this point.
All right, panel, thank you very much for your interesting insights and views on how the challenges in the logistics space have evolved and how they're being ironed out going forward. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Priya, for hosting.
Thank you, Priya.
Well, time now to wrap up this edition of the Daily Dispatch. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Goodbye and stay safe.